I've already started now with GLAIR paint medium, which is nothing more than GLAIR, chalk, and some color powder. Choose any color you want. I finished the GPM underdrawing that I traced over the transfer charcoal drawing. You have three choices of materials or media which to use. This is the easiest. I just did this 2 minutes ago, but it has to be sealed because it is egg, and if you put water on it, it'll smear. But when you seal it with a coat of pure oil or with a coat of aguado. Now, aguado is nothing more than oil and chalk. And I have some right here to show you. That is oil and chalk. It looks milky, but the moment you put it on and wipe it off, which is what you do after it gets soaked in for just 2 minutes, it becomes completely transparent. Oil and chalk. Chalk, when mixed with oil, is 99% transparent. So the other thing is the GPM is what I use for this underdrawing. I have another choice if I want to. I can use milk oil paint, which I've demonstrated in another video. The advantage of milk oil paint, it dries just as fast. Within 5 minutes, it's dry. If they're thin, the advantage is with milk oil paint, you can paint with a full color palette, reds, blues, yellows, or whatever you want, and keep overlaying. And when you're done with a milk oil paint, under painting, under drawing, you have to seal it. Once again, you could use the aguado to seal it and let it dry to the touch overnight. I'm using charcoal, vine charcoal, and I'm going to just ad lib, just without any planning. I'm just gonna draw some flowers, because when you paint portraits of women, that's really what they do like that. So sunflowers and roses are usually the ones that, now I can do that. Just keep changing it over. The other way is to just get your GLAIR paint medium. It seems like many times it's a lot faster, and instead of maybe doing the thing over and over and over with different media, you can pretty much set your own foundation as you go along here. And being of Mexican ancestry, we can't do without adding some cactuses in the back with their beautiful flowers that are on the tips. Different colors. Okay, and then I always put a rainbow around my portraits, and the reason is, I've already said it before, is in the year 2006, I had an out-of-body experience here, and I'm going to apply aguado, which is nothing more than a mixture of superior oil and chalk into a soupy condition there. And I'm going to just pour some right there. And then I'm going to use some cheesecloth. I'm going to spread it around. Spread it around with cheesecloth. So I won't bore you with the details. I'll be right back. So I'm spreading it around Aguado is a Spanish word that means soupy, very soupy and weak. And that's what this is. Just gonna spread it around. And once I get it on there, I'm gonna wipe it right off. Now, it's made of, like I said, made of chalk and oil. The chalk is, of course, calcium carbonate chalk. And the warning here is, when you buy it, make sure you have genuine. There are some companies sell calcium carbonate chalk, and it is not that at all. It's aluminum powder, and you don't want that. All right, I'm going to wipe this off. As you remove and apply the aguado, check it in the light to make sure you get an even coat all everywhere, there's no dry spots, and that you have removed all the excess. Oil paint has two stabilizers. One is GLAIR from the egg white, and the other is calcium carbonate chalk. Now, Rembrandt used calcium carbonate chalk, and Velasquez is contemporary used calcite as well as chalk. When you mix calcite with the oil, you get a very pale mixture. Calcium carbonate is the family name, and under that is, you have calcite, you have chalk, aragonite, marble, limestone. So you have various levels of calcium carbonate. So I finished the application, the removal of the excess of the aguado. Like I said, you could have used milk oil paint and done this in full color. And then once you're done with the milk oil paint, you have to seal it the same way with aguado or with pure oil until it's fully touch dry, and then you apply your oil out medium, the CGM oil out medium. Every time you apply an oil out medium, wipe it off, wipe off the excess. Now, right now, I could actually start to paint on this painting because the chalk that's in the oil will help to control the flow of the oil. Well, I couldn't resist the urge to paint. My prepared colors here are ready just to... Now, you know, yellow goes on top of black or dark, it looks green. That's called an optical color. I didn't have to mix green. There's the yellow. Oh, there's my cactus back here somewhere. Shade in the cactus leaves. Yesterday, when I applied the sealant coat of aguado and I wiped it off, I got so enthused that I began to paint on it. And this morning I saw that what happened is I lost a lot of my resolution. You can go back in the film and you can see is when you apply a sealant coat, you need to let it dry to the touch before you start to apply an oil out and before you start to paint with details. Another cause of having lost my firm resolution when I painted into the wet aguado is Perhaps I did not wipe it off well enough. I did work on that later that day to correct the loss of detail that I had put in. So here's the lesson learned, as I mentioned. You have to allow the sealant, whether it's pure oil or aguado, to dry to the touch before you apply the oil out and begin painting. Or the question has always been, must you always oil out before painting? The answer is yes and no. And here I'm going to demonstrate non-sealant. I'm just going to start to paint with my oil paint. So I've got my palette set up, and I've got the GPM underdrawing done, and I have not applied a sealant. The problem you have is it turns out to be a complete dry brush. It's not, unless if you want that. That's why we need to oil out, or you're going to be working with dry brush. Maybe your creative ideas are to use dry brush. The dry brush technique has always been used. So if you want to explore that, then do not apply an oil out. When you do apply the oil out before you oil paint, then you don't have the dry brush effect. You get easy blending, and you can create more realistic effects. Today I encountered a problem. I was making my CGM to mix with my tube oil paint, and I kept adding more and more of the GPM, the GLAIR paint medium. Normally, you need anywhere from 2, 3, or 4 drops to your CSO. But in this case, I wound up using 10 drops. And I saw that the oil I was making my CSO with was a very heavy viscosity. It was like honey. And so I conclude you may need to add more GPM, and artists, especially, I have all kinds of oils. I've been making them processing them for 30 years. I have very thin oils, I have medium viscosity oils, and I have some very heavy viscosity oils. So take into consideration as you make your CGM and you start adding your GPM, that if it doesn't immediately start to form the CGM, you will be needing more drops of the GPM. I'm going to paint on top of this unfinished painting. You can see that this here was the underpainting in a very pale color. And you'll see that here I'm adding some glaze work with a bristle brush. Now, as I can apply it, I can also wipe it back. You all know that. By wiping back, you expose that underpainting. So for the moment, I'm just applying this brown color. To this particular, what you want to call mid-tone flesh color, I have yellow, and I have red, and I have burnt sienna, and I can pull them in as I need them. Here I reached over to my red so that I could add some of that red to the cheek area. The paint is not liquid paint. It is firm, and it's through the process of using a bristle brush to rub, creating optical values. I've talked about that before. If you have very thin scrubbing, then you have a very light tone, and if you do this, then it's darker. Well, I finished the portrait, and here it is. I'm going to zoom up and show you the details little by little. Sorry I can't show you a photo of the actual person, but it's very, very close. All the painters in history would remove wrinkles and any other facial things that the women would not want photographed. Even today, you know, people are very careful about showing moles and wrinkles and things, but here you'll see the detail that I want you to enjoy. This is painted with the new method, the expansion of CSO, and called CGM, CSO GLAIR medium. This is my new book that I published in November of 2023. It's about Rembrandt's oil paint and the new expansion of the CSO method called CGM, which stands for CSO GLAIR medium. This is the workbook edition. I also have a digital copy. They're both available on Amazon. The unique thing about this book is that it contains these two books also. They're combined with, so it'll be 3 books in one. And you'll learn about Rembrandt's secret emulsions, which is the real wonder medium. And that is something I can't ever talk about enough. It's a wonder medium because Rembrandt controlled the flow of his oil with 2 things. He used calcium carbonate and he used egg GLAIR. So take a look at this book, read about the CGM, and then it'll tell you how to make Rembrandt's superior oil and also how to understand how he used his emulsions.